Hello and welcome. This is MetalFish T60, a 9 litre small form factor case. This case can be sourced from AliExpress and can be purchased for as low as $70 with right timing and a coupon. That price includes a PCI Express version 4-ribbon cable. If you have your own PCI ribbon cable to use, you can get it for 2/3 of the price. This case can support two 120mm fans on top and a GPU that's as long as 30 centimeters. The height limit for CPU is 60mm. This case does not allow normal power supply, SFX or SFXL only. However, in reality, SFXL is too long for this case. It cannot be used in a practical sense. It does fit on paper, but that's without considering cables. The rectangular shape layout is pretty common for cases of this size. This layout requires a PCI Express ribbon cable for a GPU to be able to fit. You can consider this a dual chamber setup. GPU has its own chamber with motherboard and power supply sharing another chamber. This kind of layout has a benefit of components being able to breathe fresh air from outside, and I've rarely seen this kind of layout overheat. There are some disadvantages, of course. While it looks roomy, this is going to be a tight build. I know this from experience. There will barely be any wiggle room in the end. Another issue is the ribbon cable. Right now, you can purchase Gen 4 ribbon cables relatively cheaply, but the current gen is 5th, and Gen 5 ribbon cables are rare and quite expensive. There are sometimes issues with using Generation 4 cables with Generation 5 GPU as well. It's good that the length of the cables are proper. Some cases have ridiculously long cables for no apparent reason other than to torment you. Given the fact that CPU cooler height limit is 60mm, the best cooler for this case is IS55, a 55mm cooler. Since the motherboard is flipped and how tight it seems to be, it's probably wiser to install the CPU power cable first before going further. There won't probably be enough space for fingers to work once it's installed. Yeah, as expected, you have to install the CPU power cable first. There is no way that you'd be able to install it after. Two 120mm fans could be installed. I am installing only one to keep CPU temperature down. I don't see the need for the second one. not to mention the added difficulty of cable management. On paper, SFX-L power supply can be installed, but look at the cables. SFX-L is about 3 cm longer. It is already pretty tight with a normal SFX power supply. If I lose 3 cm of that clearance, it is going to be excruciating to manage cables. Stick with regular SFX power supply only. Well, all done. It is time to boot it up and see how it fares, temperature-wise. Although there is clearly ample space for a bigger GPU, maxing the space out might not be wise due to cable management issues. It says it accepts up to 30 cm. I'd recommend 25 cm max, just to leave some space for cabling. I had to open up the case because a wire was touching a fan blade. Idle temperature seems to be good enough for Ryzen. Never mind the red colored 75-ish temperature, because the default TJ Max for ASRock motherboards is 75 Celsius. You can raise it up to 90. What I'm going to do now is fire up a Blender file by using all 12 threads. I will observe the temperature for a bit, and then move on to launching another Blender instance and use GPU to render the same scene. This will effectively stress both CPU and GPU together. This is a better test than gaming since it will push both CPU and GPU to max artificially. So, after a while, GPU temperature seems to have stabilized at around 72 degrees Celsius. As for CPU, since it's Ryzen, I look at the max turbo speed, which is around 4.9 GHz. This is all core turbo, and it is good enough. Under ideal conditions, all max turbo should have been 5.2 GHz, but this is a 9-liter case. This result is good enough in my book. Besides, the TJ Max is set at just 75 degrees Celsius. If I had set it higher, it would have reached higher. Here we are, closing words. I've worked with both T40 and T60, and T40 was easier to work with in spite of being smaller at 7 liters. That was due to its simple and straightforward layout. T60 offers a better GPU option at the expense of complexity and being slightly larger. The case is relatively easy to work with, but you need to plan ahead slightly, like pre-installing the CPU power cable. And you will want to use as little cables as possible to reduce the need for cable management. Not using RGB fans is recommended since they use 2 cables instead of 1. Now, the case does come with a handle, but I chose not to install it. I made the same decision with T40 as well. The reason is that I do not believe the top plate is thick enough to withstand the overall weight of a fully built computer. And, as stated earlier, do not use SFX-L power supply. It will fit theoretically, but it will make your life unnecessarily hard. you are going to use 3 centimeters of where the red arrow is pointing. You cannot afford to lose that space because it was already tight enough with a regular SFX power supply. I cannot imagine being able to route cables with SFXL. Finally, with GPU length limit, again theoretically 30 centimeters is the limit, but my recommendation is 25 centimeters for practicality. You want some space to manage cables. That's the reality of PC components. Overall, not a bad case, but I like T40 better. Thank you for watching and see you next time.